the stones beneath her. The night was cold again, colder than the last one. The broken walls of the ruined settlement gave no shelter, no warmth, no mercy. She lay there, a small alien girl with thin arms and glowing eyes, curled tightly on the hard stones. For 16 nights those stones had been her bed, sharp against her back, cruel against her skin. Every breath she took came out like smoke in the dark air. The stars above looked bright and distant, but they offered no comfort. Around her shadows moved, other beings, strangers who passed by. Some laughed at her misery, others spat on the ground as if her presence was dirt. Not one of them stopped. She pulled her knees close to her chest and whispered to herself. The words were soft, almost broken, as if she was not sure she had the right to speak them out loud. She said, "Just one night, just one more night. Maybe tomorrow will be better." But deep down, she knew tomorrow would be the same. Her stomach growled. Hunger was her companion now. She remembered the taste of food, but memory could not fill her belly. On the 16th night, she had eaten nothing. On the 15th, only a single piece of spoiled fruit. She licked her dry lips and shut her eyes, forcing herself not to cry. Crying was dangerous here. It drew attention, and attention always brought pain. A group of voices rose nearby, harsh and mocking. 3 alien men passed, their eyes glowing faintly under the moon. One of them pointed at her and laughed. "Look at her, still alive. How many nights can a worm survive on stones?" The others laughed with him. She curled tighter, wishing she could melt into the shadows. Their laughter faded as they walked away, but the echo of their cruelty stayed with her. The stones beneath her felt colder. She shifted, trying to find a softer spot, but there was none. It was always the same. Hard, unyielding, merciless. Her body ached in places she could no longer count. Her skin was bruised, her spirit cracked. Yet something inside her still held on. Something small, something stubborn. The moon moved higher, and the night dragged on. She tried to sleep, but sleep was never kind. The stones dug into her bones, the cold seeped into her veins, and every sound of footsteps made her heart race. She dreamed of a bed once, soft, warm, covered with cloth. She dreamed of someone pulling a blanket over her shoulders. But when she opened her eyes, there was only the broken settlement and the biting wind. 16 nights, 16 times she had told herself it was the last. 16 times she had woken up again, still on the stones. But on this night, the 17th, something changed. At first it was only footsteps, slow, steady, different from the hurried steps of others. She tensed, holding her breath. Was it another cruel stranger? Another hand ready to strike? She didn't move, didn't even blink, her small frame hidden partly in shadow. The footsteps stopped near her. For a moment, silence pressed down on her chest. Then a voice came, low and human. "Why are you here?" Her eyes opened, wide and frightened. She had seen humans before, but none of them had ever spoken to her. Most looked away. Some looked with pity, others with disgust. But this one had spoken. She did not answer. Her throat was too dry, and fear kept her frozen. The human bent slightly, his figure outlined by the dim light of the moon. His eyes searched hers, not with cruelty, but with something she did not understand. Something strange. He said again, softer this time, "How long have you been sleeping here?" Her lips parted, but no sound came. 16 nights. 16 answers. But what would he do with that truth? She stayed silent. The human studied her for a moment longer, then sighed. His breath was warm in the cold air. For some reason, that warmth reached her heart even though he stood at a distance. Her hands trembled. She wanted to shrink back into the stones, into the dirt, into the forgotten shadows where she had always been. But her glowing eyes would not let her hide. They betrayed her fear, her hunger, her pain. The human noticed. He reached into his coat and pulled something out. She tensed again, expecting harm, expecting pain. But instead of a weapon, he held a small piece of bread. Bread. The smell hit her nose first. Warm, simple, but alive. Her stomach clenched painfully. She stared at it as if it were a star fallen to earth. The human extended his hand. Here. Eat. She did not move. Her trust had been broken too many times. What if it was a trick? What if he laughed like the others once she reached for it? The silence between them stretched long. The cold pressed harder. The stones beneath her seemed sharper than ever. Finally, her trembling fingers moved. Slowly, carefully, she reached out and took the bread. The human did not laugh. He did not mock. He only watched as she lifted it to her mouth and took the smallest bite. The taste exploded in her mouth. It was simple bread, nothing more. But for her, it was the taste of life. Tears burned in her eyes and she turned her face away so he wouldn't. See? The human said nothing. He only stayed there standing beside her in silence as she ate, and for the first time in 16 nights, she felt something strange on the stones. Hope. The human stranger. The 17th night had brought something new. The human stood there watching her with steady eyes. He did not leave after giving her bread. Most people passed quickly, as if she was a stain they did not want to look at. But this one remained, his boots firm on the cracked ground, his gaze fixed on her like she mattered. The alien girl sat frozen, her thin hands clutched around the last crumbs of bread. She waited for the trick, the cruelty, the sharp laugh that usually came after small acts of false kindness. Yet no sound came, only silence, broken by the wind that howled through the broken stones around them. Finally she whispered, her voice hoarse from days of silence. Why? The human tilted his head. Why what? Why, give me food? Her words shook, each one carrying suspicion and fear. He crouched so his eyes were level with hers. The faint glow of her alien irises reflected in his pupils. Because you look hungry. It was such a simple answer, so plain, but it shook her. No one had ever said that to her. No one had cared. 16 nights on stones had taught her one lesson. No one saw her as more than trash. Yet this man, this stranger, spoke as if her hunger mattered. Her chest tightened, a storm of feelings she did not have words for. She wanted to believe him, but trust was a dangerous thing. The human noticed her doubt. He spoke again, his voice calm. I don't want anything from you. Those words stabbed deeper than kindness. She had learned the hard way that everyone wanted something, her labor, her body, her obedience, her silence. Could he really want nothing? The night stretched, and the human finally stood. She flinched, expecting him to turn away and vanish, like all the others. But instead he extended a hand. Come with me, you shouldn't be here. Her glowing eyes widened. Where? To a safer place. Somewhere you won't freeze on the ground. She stared at his hand as if it was fire. To take it meant leaving the stones, the only place she knew, cruel as it was. But to take it also meant stepping into the unknown. Unknowns were worse than stones. Unknowns could kill. Her heart thudded painfully. She shook her head quickly, pulling her body back. No, I stay. The human did not argue. He let his hand drop slowly, his face unreadable. If you change your mind, I'll be back. Back? Her mind spun. No one ever promised to come back. The word felt strange, heavy, dangerous. He turned then, his footsteps fading into the night. She sat clutching the stones, shaking, wondering if she had made a mistake. The hours dragged. The stones grew colder. Hunger returned like a knife twisting in her belly. She thought of the bread, the warmth of his hand near hers, the way his voice carried no sharpness. When dawn came, she expected emptiness again. But as the sun broke through the cracks of the ruined settlement, the human appeared. He was carrying something wrapped in cloth. Her breath caught. He had come back. Without speaking, he placed the bundle before her. Inside was more bread and something else, dried meat, rough but nourishing. The smell filled her head, making her dizzy. "Eat," he said simply. She stared at him, then at the food. Her hands shook as she reached, expecting him to pull it away at the last second. But he did not. He only waited, patient. The first bite was fire in her veins, strength she had not felt in weeks. Her eyes filled again, but she blinked the tears back. She hated crying in front of others. As she ate, the human sat on a broken stone near her. He did not question her, did not press her for answers. He only spoke after a long silence. "My name is Aaron." The name lingered in the air, human and firm. She looked at him, unsure if she should reply, but some part of her whispered she should. "Lyra," she murmured, her voice like wind. Aaron nodded. "Lyra." He said it carefully, as if her name mattered. The sound of it from his lips was strange. It was not filled with disgust, not twisted with insult, just her name, plain and honest. For the first time, it did not feel like a curse. Her walls shook, piece by piece. Still, she asked in a small voice, "Why help me?" Aaron leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. His eyes were tired, as if he had seen too many wars, too much suffering. "Because you don't deserve this. No one does." Her heart pounded. She wanted to argue, to tell him she did deserve it, that her kind had been called worthless, unwanted, weak. But the words caught in her throat. Something inside her whispered maybe, just maybe, he was right. The sun rose higher. Lyra felt its warmth, but it was not the sun that reached her most. It was Aaron's steady presence. Still, she could not forget the shadows. She could not forget the men who laughed, who spat, who might come again. Her eyes darted nervously to the broken streets. Aaron noticed. His hand rested lightly on the hilt of a knife at his belt. "If anyone bothers you, I'll be here." The word settled in her chest like a shield. For the first time in 16 nights, she did not feel completely unprotected. But deep inside, she also felt fear of another kind. If she let herself believe him, if she trusted too much, what if he left? What if this was only a dream? As the day faded, Aaron stood again. "Tonight," he said quietly, "you won't sleep on stones. Not if I have a say in it." Lyra stared, her voice caught between hope and disbelief. Could it be true? Could the 17th night finally bring her something other than pain? Her trembling fingers curled around the last piece of bread. Her glowing eyes followed him as he walked a few steps ahead, then turned, waiting for her to rise. The stones beneath her suddenly felt heavier, sharper, colder. She realized she did not want to lie on them another night. The question hung in her heart. Would she follow the human stranger? Or remain in misery she already knew? A meal shared. The 17th night was slipping into memory, yet its weight stayed with Lyra. For 16 nights, she had known only the sharp sting of hunger, the cold bite of stone, and the mocking whispers of strangers. But now, as dawn touched the broken settlement, she held in her hand something different, food given without cruelty. Aaron, the human stranger, stood near her again. He was not like the others who walked past. He had returned, just as he promised. That small truth shook her more than the bread he had given. Promises were not made to her. Promises were for people who mattered. She sat with her back against the crumbling wall, her glowing eyes fixed on the bundle he carried. She could smell it before he opened it. Warm, rich, strange. Her stomach twisted in both longing and fear. He placed the bundle between them. Slowly, carefully, he unwrapped the cloth. Inside were slices of bread, some dried meat, and even a small flask of water. The scent filled the air, stronger than any dream she had dared in her hungry nights. Her body leaned forward without thinking, her hands trembling. Yet her mind screamed warnings. What if this was the moment the kindness ended? What if he laughed, snatched it away, left her to choke on shame? Aaron saw the hesitation. He did not push the food toward her. Instead, he tore a piece of bread himself, chewed it slowly, and swallowed. Only then did he nod to her. "It's safe. Eat." The knot in her chest loosened just slightly. With shaking fingers, she picked up a piece. She brought it to her mouth. So carefully it was as if she feared it might vanish. The first bite was small, but the taste exploded inside her. It was bread, plain, dry, but to her, it was life itself. Her eyes stung with tears. She looked down quickly, not wanting him to see the cracks in her hard shell. Yet Aaron noticed anyway. He said nothing, only took another bite himself as if sharing the moment made it normal. The silence between them stretched, but it was not the cruel silence she had known before. This one was calm, almost gentle. She ate more, slower now, savoring each bite. Her hunger battled with her fear that this gift would vanish if she trusted it too much. After a while, Aaron spoke. "When was the last time you had a full meal?" She froze, chewing slowly, unsure if she should answer, but the truth slipped out before she could stop it. I don't remember." His brow furrowed. He did not scold her, did not mock. Instead, he handed her the flask of water. "Drink." The water was cool, fresh. As it touched her dry throat, she almost gasped. The relief was so strong she felt dizzy. She lowered the flask and clutched it tight, afraid he might take it back. But he did not. She dared to glance at him then. His face was lined, his eyes tired, but there was something there she had not seen in others. Patience. He leaned back against the stones. "No one should live like this. Not you." Her heart jumped. "Not you." As if she mattered. She wanted to ask why, but the words tangled inside her. Instead, she whispered, "They don't care. None of them care." Aaron's jaw tightened. "I care." The words landed heavy, too heavy. She shook her head quickly. "You'll leave. Everyone leaves." He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Not tonight." Her hands trembled harder. She wanted to believe, but belief was dangerous. Belief could break her. They ate together in silence after that, side by side on the broken stones. For the first time in 16 nights, she did not eat alone, staring at shadows. For the first time, someone sat with her as if she was worth sitting beside. As the last crumbs vanished, she felt warmth in her belly, strength in her arms. It was such a small thing, yet to her it was everything. The sky darkened again. The 17th night was coming. She pulled her thin cloak around her shoulders, ready to curl back on the stones. But Aaron shook his head. "Not here," he said, firmly. Her glowing eyes widened. "Where?" "My place," he replied simply. "There's a roof, a bed, safer than this." Her breath caught. A bed. The word was dangerous, almost forbidden. She remembered softness once, long ago, but those memories were shadows now. Beds were for the wanted, the loved, the safe. She was none of those things. She shook her head quickly, retreating into the corner. "No, I can't." Aaron did not press her. "You don't have to, but know this. If you stay, you'll freeze again. If you come, you'll rest." The choice was left hanging in the air, heavy and terrifying. The girl curled tighter, her mind racing. Trust meant risk. Risk meant pain. Yet the stones beneath her already hurt, already tore at her bones. Could his promise truly be worse? Aaron stood, slinging the empty cloth over his shoulder. "I'll be close. If you need me, call." And then he stepped away, but not far, not gone. His shadow lingered in the distance. Lyra stared at the stones, under her, then at the space where he had stood. The food still sat warm in her belly, the water still cool on her lips. For the first time in 16 nights, she felt something new rising in her chest. Not hope, not yet, but the smallest spark of trust, the offer of shelter. The sky darkened fast, clouds heavy with rain. The ruined settlement had no roof strong enough to stop it. The broken walls leaked cold wind through every crack. Lyra pulled her thin cloak tighter, but it was useless. She knew what was coming, another night of shivering on sharp stones. Aaron stood near her, watching the sky. His jaw tightened as the first drops of rain splashed on the ground. The human's eyes shifted to her small frame, curled in the corner like a discarded thing. Something in his chest clenched. He had seen soldiers starve. He had seen men die in war. But this sight of a young girl forced to sleep in misery, cut deeper than any battlefield. He stepped closer. "You can't stay here tonight," he said firmly. Lyra flinched, her glowing eyes darting to him in alarm. "I always stay. Stones don't leave me." His brows furrowed. "Stones don't care for you either, and they will not protect you from the storm." The rain grew heavier, pattering against the cracked earth, splashing against her bare feet. She tried to make herself smaller, as if the water would forget her. But Aaron didn't look away. He bent, down so she could hear him over the rain. His voice was steady, carrying no sharpness, no command, only concern. "Come with me. My shelter isn't much, but it's dry. There's fire. A bed." The word struck her like a blade. Bed. She froze, her heart racing. Beds were for others, not for her. Beds were soft, warm, and safe. She was none of those things. She shook her head quickly, pressing herself harder into the stones. "No, I stay. Safer here." Aaron studied her face, the way fear gripped her like chains. He understood enough. Trust was not given in one night, but he also knew the storm would not forgive her. He glanced at the sky. The rain was turning harsher, thunder echoing far away. He sighed and stood, pulling off his own cloak. Without another word, he draped it over her shoulders. The heavy fabric was warm from his body, smelling faintly of earth and smoke. She stiffened, her hands clutching the edges. Why give this?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, over the storm. "Because you're freezing," he said simply. Her glowing eyes widened, searching his face for cruelty. But there was none. His words were too plain, too honest. They frightened her more than lies. For a long moment, they sat, in silence, one standing in the rain, the other trembling under his cloak. The storm grew, the stones beneath her soaking wet. Finally, Aaron extended his hand again. "Come with me, Lyra. Just tonight. No more stones. No more cold." Her heart pounded wildly. She wanted to refuse, to curl tighter into her misery because misery was familiar. Misery never betrayed her. It was always the same. But a small voice inside her whispered, "And what if he's telling the truth?" Her trembling fingers reached out, stopped, pulled back. Fear screamed louder than hunger. Louder than pain. She shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks, mixing with the rain. "If I go, you will leave me, or hurt me, or laugh." Aaron knelt, his voice sharp but not cruel. "I'm not them. I don't laugh at suffering. I don't walk away." The firmness in his tone made her flinch but also made her listen. His eyes, dark in the stormlight, held no lies. Slowly, painfully, she lifted her hand. The moment her fingers touched his, her breath caught. His hand was warm, steady, not pulling, not forcing, just waiting. She rose shakily from the stones, her knees weak. For the first time in 17 nights, she stood not because she had to, but because someone asked her to. Aaron led the way through the rain, his steps slow so she could follow. Lyra clutched the cloak around her, every drop of water a reminder of what she had left behind. She kept glancing back at the stones, the only home she had known for so long. They seemed to call her back, whispering safety and misery. But then she looked at the human's back, broad and strong, shielding her from the storm, and her steps kept moving forward. They reached a small building on the edge of the settlement. Its walls were cracked, but the roof still stood. Inside, a faint glow of fire flickered. The moment she stepped through the doorway, warmth brushed against her frozen skin. She gasped quietly, the sudden change almost overwhelming. Aaron shut the door behind them, keeping out the storm. He moved to the fire and added more wood, the flames leaping brighter. Then he turned to her, his voice gentle. "You'll sleep, here tonight." Her eyes darted around. The room was small, but it was not broken like the settlement outside. A wooden table stood near the fire, a blanket folded on a chair, and against the far wall, she saw it. A bed. Her breath caught. She stepped back, shaking her head. "No, not for me. Beds are not for me." Aaron frowned. "Beds are for anyone who needs rest, and you need it more than anyone." She shook her head harder, clutching the cloak. "If I touch it, they will punish me." His voice turned firm again. "No one here will punish you. You're safe." The word safe echoed in her chest. It felt like a lie, but it also felt like a promise. She stared at the bed, her legs trembling. The blanket looked soft, too soft for someone like her. Aaron stepped closer, his tone calm. "Try it. Just once. If you don't like it, you can go back to the stones tomorrow." Her throat tightened. She hesitated, then moved slowly across the room. Her fingers brushed the blanket and she flinched as if it would burn her, but it didn't. It was soft. Softer than anything she remembered. Her eyes filled with tears. She whispered, "It's real." Aaron nodded. "It's yours for tonight." She turned to him, trembling, her voice breaking. "Why do this?" He looked at her quietly for a long moment, then said, "Because no one should sleep on stones for 17 nights. Lyra's knees gave way. She sank onto the bed, clutching the blanket to her chest, tears streaming silently. For the first time in years, she felt the weight of her body sink into softness instead of pain. Outside, the storm raged, but inside, a fragile spark of warmth grew, the bed of trust. The storm outside roared louder, beating against the roof of the small shelter, but inside the fire burned steady, casting a golden glow across the walls. For the first time in 17 nights, Lyra was not lying on cold stones. She sat on the edge of a bed, her hands clutching the blanket as if it might disappear. Her body trembled, not from cold, but from disbelief. Every muscle screamed at her to get off, to return to the floor, to curl into the shadows where she belonged. Beds were not for her kind. Beds were for the wanted, the loved, the worthy. She was none of those things. Aaron stood near the fire, watching her quietly. He did not rush her. He did not push her down onto the bed or force her to stay. He only waited, his eyes calm, his presence steady. That patience was heavier than commands. It unsettled her. She glanced at him nervously. If they find me here, they'll punish me." Aaron shook his head firmly. "No one will touch you here. This is my shelter. My rules." The words echoed in her chest. My shelter, my rules. Did that mean she was under his protection? Could such a thing be true? Her glowing eyes dropped back to the blanket. Slowly, she pressed her palm against it, feeling the softness. The fabric was warm, carrying the faint scent of firewood and earth. Her throat tightened. Aaron's voice broke the silence. "Lie down. Rest. You need it." She stiffened. Rest. The word felt dangerous, almost forbidden. Rest meant lowering, her guard leaving herself open. For 16 nights she had slept with one eye open, her ears sharp for footsteps, her body ready to flee. On the stones, even in misery, she was alert. But here the fire was warm, the bed soft, the human watching over her. If she closed her eyes, what would happen? Her lips trembled. What? What if you leave while I sleep? Aaron's gaze softened. Then when you wake, I'll still be here. The promise was too big, too heavy. She wanted to believe, but belief was dangerous. She lowered herself slowly, her small body sinking into the bed. The mattress accepted her weight like an embrace, and she gasped quietly. She had forgotten what softness felt like. Her glowing eyes turned to Aaron again, wide with fear. I shouldn't. I don't deserve this. Aaron stepped closer, kneeling so his face was level with hers. His voice was quiet, but strong. You deserve more than stones, Lyra. Everyone does. Her throat ached. Tears slid down her cheeks. Before she could stop them, she pulled the blanket up, hiding half her face, ashamed of her weakness. Aaron didn't scold her. He only added wood to the fire, keeping the warmth alive. Minutes passed, then an hour. She lay there, her body tense, her eyes refusing to close. But slowly, as the storm outside raged, her exhaustion crept in. The warmth of the blanket, the steady crackle of the fire, the quiet strength of the human's presence, these things broke down her walls. Her breathing grew slower. Her body, so used to pain, began to relax. For the first time in so long, she let her eyes drift shut. Aaron glanced at her from the fire. She had curled up under the blanket, her glowing eyes hidden now, her chest rising and falling in the rhythm of true sleep. A small, fragile sound escaped her lips, a sigh soft and innocent. He exhaled, tension leaving his shoulders. He had not known her long, but he understood enough. 16 nights on stones had left scars deeper than her bruises. Offering her a bed was not just kindness. It was a test of trust, and she had taken it. He sat in the chair by the fire, keeping his knife close, his eyes on the door. He would not sleep tonight. Not while she rested. Lyra dreamed. In her dream, she was small again, lying in a bed with soft covers, laughter around her. But the dream twisted. Shadows pulled it away. Voices mocked her. Hands pushed her back to the stones. She cried out, thrashing. Aaron was at her side in a heartbeat. Lyra, he said softly, his hand hovering above her shoulder, not touching, waiting. You're safe. It's just a dream. Her glowing eyes snapped open, wide with panic. She saw him, the fire, the blanket. She realized she was still on the bed, still safe. Slowly, her breathing calmed. He stayed there, crouched beside her. You're safe, he repeated, steady and sure. She looked at him through wet lashes. You didn't leave. I told you I wouldn't, Aaron said. Her lips trembled and she whispered, Then maybe I can sleep again. He nodded. I'll be here. Sleep as long as you need. And this time, when she closed her eyes, she believed him, if only a little. The storm outside raged until morning. But inside, the fragile bond of trust grew stronger. For the first time in 17 nights, she did not wake on hard stones. She woke in warmth. She woke with hope. Secrets revealed. Morning came slowly, light slipping through the cracks of the shelter's roof. The storm outside had passed, leaving the air fresh, filled with the scent of wet earth. The fire had burned low, but it still glowed enough to warm the small room. Lyra stirred beneath the blanket. Her glowing eyes opened slowly, blinking against the pale sunlight. For a moment she panicked. Softness surrounded her instead of stone, warmth instead of cold. Her body tensed, ready to flee. But then she saw him. Aaron sat in the chair near the fire, his head bowed slightly, his knife resting at his side. He had not left. He had guarded the shelter all night. Her breath caught in her chest. The promise had been real. She whispered, her voice hoarse. You stayed. Aaron looked up, his tired eyes softening. I told you I would. The weight of those words pressed against her heart. She had expected betrayal, abandonment, laughter, but instead she had found truth. And truth was far more frightening. She sat up slowly, clutching the blanket. Memories returned like knives. 16 nights of hunger, laughter thrown at her, the hard stones digging into her back. For so long she had thought this misery was her fate. But here she was, alive in a bed, guarded by a human stranger. Her lips trembled. "Why do you help me?" Aaron was silent for a long moment. He leaned forward, resting his arms on his knees. His voice came low, steady. "Because I've seen too much suffering, and I refuse to walk past it anymore." She studied him, confusion filling her eyes. He was not like the others. He had no reason to care, no bond with her. And yet he did. Her throat tightened. The words slipped out before she could stop them. They threw me away." Aaron's eyes narrowed slightly. "Who?" Her hands clenched the blanket. Fear surged, warning her not to speak. Secrets were dangerous. Secrets kept her alive. But his steady gaze broke through her walls. He had given her food, warmth, a bed. Perhaps he deserved to know. Her voice cracked. "My people. They said I was too weak, too small. They said I would only bring shame. So they left me. 16 nights ago." Aaron's jaw tightened. His hands curled into fists. "They abandoned you? A child?" She nodded, tears sliding down her cheeks. "Not child, just unwanted. They said stones were enough for me." The fire crackled, filling the silence. Aaron's anger burned hotter than the flames, but he kept his voice calm for her sake. "You deserved better. You deserve better still." Her glowing eyes searched his face, desperate for doubt, for mockery, but she found none. He believed her. He was angry for her, not at her. That was new, that was terrifying. Her voice dropped lower, barely above a whisper. "Sometimes I wished I had died. Then no one could laugh anymore." Aaron's heart clenched. He leaned closer, his voice firm. "Don't say that. You're alive. And that matters. To me, it matters." The words hit her like lightning. To him, it matters. The thought spun in her chest, confusing and warm. No one had ever said such a thing. She looked down at her trembling hands. For so long she had carried her pain in silence. Speaking it now felt like pulling thorns from her skin, painful, but freeing. There was still more. She swallowed hard. "The men who mocked me, well, they are not strangers. They are from my clan. They watched me, waiting for me to die. They said it would prove they were right." Aaron's expression darkened. "Then they will find themselves wrong." She flinched at the steel in his tone, but also felt something new. Protection. He was not afraid of them. He was not afraid to stand for her. Still, fear coiled in her chest. "If they see me with you, they will come. They will punish me for trusting you." Aaron's gaze locked onto hers, steady and unyielding. "Then let them come. I won't let them hurt you." Her lips parted, shock freezing her. No one had ever said such words to her before. Not once. The silence stretched, heavy with her confession and his vow. Then she whispered, her voice breaking, "Why me? Why not walk past like the others?" Aaron leaned back slightly, his eyes still burning. "Because I was once like you, alone, forgotten, and someone chose to help me. I never forgot it. Now it's my turn." Her chest ached. She pressed her face into the blanket, trying to hide the tears that poured freely. She had hidden them, for 16 nights, swallowed them in silence, but here with him she could not stop. Aaron did not reach to touch her, did not force comfort on her. He only sat near, letting her cry, letting her release years of pain. That patience was stronger than any embrace. When her sobs slowed, she lifted her face, eyes red, but glowing faintly brighter. You make me believe. Just a little." Aaron nodded. "That's enough for now." She looked at him long, her heart heavy with fear but also lighter with truth. She had revealed her secrets, the abandonment, the cruelty, the reason for her suffering, and he had not turned away. For the first time she felt that trust was not just a spark, it was beginning to grow. But outside, unseen in the shadows, figures watched the shelter. Eyes glowed faintly, filled with malice. Her clan had noticed she was gone from the stones, and they did not like it. Belonging at last, the sun dipped low on the horizon, painting the settlement in shades of red and gold. The storm was gone, but the air still carried the scent of wet earth. Inside the small shelter, the fire glowed warmly, casting long shadows on the walls. Lyra sat on the bed, her glowing eyes fixed on the flames. Her body was warm, her belly no longer aching with hunger, but her heart was restless. For the first time she had spoken her truth aloud, how her own people had abandoned her, mocked her, left her to die. Aaron had listened, not with judgment, but with anger for her sake. That memory still trembled inside her. Aaron moved around the room quietly, checking the door, sharpening his knife on a stone. His eyes, though calm, carried weight. He had seen the glances in the shadows when they walked back earlier. He knew they were being watched. He knew her clan would not stay silent for long. Lyra hugged the blanket close. Her voice was soft, uncertain. "They will come. I know it." Aaron looked at her firmly. "Then let them come. You're not alone anymore." The words pierced her heart. Not alone anymore. For 16 nights, she had been nothing but alone. To hear those words now felt unreal, almost dangerous. She shook, her head trembling. "If they see me here, they will call me traitor. They will punish me." Aaron's jaw tightened. "If they want to punish you, they'll have to go through me first." Her glowing eyes widened. No one had ever spoken for her like that. No one had ever stood between her and danger. The idea terrified her, but it also filled her with warmth so strong it hurt. The evening deepened, shadows crawling across the floor. Suddenly a sharp knock rattled the wooden door. Lyra jumped, clutching the blanket to her chest. Aaron's hand went to his knife instantly. A voice hissed from outside, cruel and mocking. "We know she's in there, human. Hand her over, she belongs to us." Lyra's blood froze. The voices were familiar. Her clan. The ones who had left her on the stones. The ones who laughed every night she shivered. They had come to drag her back. Tears welled in her eyes. "Please," she whispered to Aaron, her voice breaking. "Don't fight them. If you give me back, they won't hurt you." Aaron's eyes burned like steel. "No, you don't belong to them. Not anymore." The words struck her harder than the storm, harder than hunger. She didn't belong to them. Could that be true? Could she belong somewhere else, someone else? The door shook again under another knock. "Human!" the voice barked. "Open the door before we break it down." Aaron stood tall, knife in hand, his body between her and the door. His voice rang out firm. "She is under my protection. If you want her, you'll have to step inside, and you won't walk out again." Silence followed, then laughter, sharp and cruel. "You think you can guard her forever? She's weak, worthless. She'll drag you down." Lyra's heart pounded. Their words cut her, but Aaron did not flinch. He glanced back at her, his voice steady. "Don't listen, you're not worthless. You've survived what would have broken others. That makes you stronger than them." Her tears spilled freely. She had never heard her pain turned into strength. She had never been called strong before. The voices outside muttered, then faded into the night, but Lyra knew they would return. This was not the end. Aaron turned back to her, lowering his knife. He knelt beside the bed, his voice gentler now. "They don't decide your worth, Lyra. You do. And if you'll let me, I'll stand with you. Until you believe it yourself." Her chest tightened. No one had ever given her such a choice. No one had ever offered her belonging, not as property, not as burden, but as someone who mattered. Her trembling hand reached out, clutching his sleeve. Why do you care so much?" Aaron's eyes softened. "Because I see you. Not the stones, not the mockery. Just you. And I won't turn away." The blanket slipped from her shoulders as she leaned forward, tears glowing in her alien eyes. Then maybe I can belong here. With you? The words left her lips before she could stop them, but once spoken, they felt right. The fear was still there, but so was something else. Hope, fragile but alive. Aaron placed a steady hand on hers. You already do. The fire crackled, filling the silence with warmth. For the first time in 17 nights, Lyra's heart no longer ached with loneliness. She had been abandoned, mocked, left to die. But here, in this small shelter, with this human who refused to leave her behind, she had found something greater than survival. She had found belonging. Yet outside, unseen, in the dark her clan's eyes still watched. And belonging, she would soon learn, always came at a cost.